Welcome to the show. It's Matt Reynolds and Shanku Nair here with you as we have a really exciting show for you today. We are in Wichita, Kansas. You'll hear in the background, we are in fact at a casino. So if you hear those noises, that's where we're at. Hanging out here for the week in Wichita, Kansas. And Shanku, it is a really, really big week. Very excited to get after it and see what happens this week.
Yes, sir, Matt. We're just coming off a big weekend in Memphis and probably an even bigger weekend in Wichita, and I'm excited to see some high-level competition this weekend.
We do have a lot to cover from the last week, including standings and many things that I know all of you are looking for. So have no fear. We're going to get to those, but we're going to be honest with you. The majority of this show is going to be about the live period preview, as over 250 college coaches have already registered, and it's just Thursday. There's still many more that are on the way. So we're very excited. Players of all levels. Shanku will have the breakdowns, as well as we'll be joined by Kyle Unruh at one point in the show. But before we get to Kyle and kick off the Wichita coverage, Shanku, let's talk a little bit about Memphis. In Memphis this past weekend, we're not going to be able to get to everybody. We were in Memphis, Virginia Beach, and Bettendorf, Iowa, which also included a girls' event. We just have a few minutes. Let's talk briefly just Devon Scott. I think you got to start there when you talk about players that performed well in Memphis. He was fantastic. Southern Ties went 4-0. They do not go 4-0 without him, and particularly his breakout game was the game that was live on Peacock where they beat by double digits AO Flight, and Devon had an outstanding performance.
Yeah, Matt. Devon was awesome. I showed off his clutch gene all weekend, hitting some clutch shots in numerous games. But like you said, in that Peacock game against AO Flight, he really showed out. 22 points, 6 of 7 from 3, just lights out shooting, and overall on the weekend, 44% from 3 on 7 attempts a game. That's a ridiculous blend of efficiency and volume. So he's a player to watch that I'm sure is going to blow up very soon.
I think he's got a great opportunity to have a bunch of offers. My hope for him, as well as any of our guys, is that they play their best this week. It's obviously a very big week, pressure-packed for Wichita. But if he plays anything like what he did last week, he is going to have a ton of scholarship offers roll in from the low to mid-major range, and who knows, maybe even the high major range if he's able to do what he did again in Memphis in front of college coaches. Speaking of impressive, I mean, there's only one team that's undefeated left in the entire 17U Pro 16 circuit, and it's the team that 0 people expected. And if you say you expected it, you are a liar. Select Basketball is undefeated, 8-0, led by Nash Humphreys. Shanku, they've got a lot of talent. You have to start with Nash, who was the MVP of the 16U. I mean, look, they're a great team. They're so well coached by Clint, but really didn't expect what we're getting here.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Clint Hordman has got these guys on lock. I mean, they're playing just so connected, super synergized group. They've got a few fringe D1 guys, not even maybe a few like for sure D1 guys, but Ray Johnson and Nash Humphreys, like you said, Matt, they're leading the way. Nash is a 6'1" guard, super shifty, super crafty, high IQ, high field guard. He gets to his spots, quick twitch off the dribble. And then Ray Johnston is baby Jokic. I mean, if you haven't watched this kid, he's so fun to watch. 6'6" post guy, can put the ball on the floor, and then just an unbelievable passer out of the post, pass over doubles, and just make unbelievable reads at 6'6".
Well, and obviously won Montana State Gatorade Player of the Year, so that's a big note for him. They've been terrific. They've been absolutely terrific. A team that is one of the more talented teams in the circuit, YGC, with Caden Edwards, who went for 41 on Friday night in Memphis, and Chris Sinak. Sinak missed Saturday's game, and it cost them. They lost. But possibly the most disappointing game for YGC was they played AO Flight. They were up double digits, near 16. I think it got up to 16 or 18 points at some point in the first half. And AO Flight Shanku comes all the way storming back, led by Aiden Chronister, and comes away with the victory.
Yeah, that was an awesome game. But talking about Caden Edwards on Friday night against MPJ Elite, I mean, what a performance that was. Best performance I've seen from an individual level. 41 points, 7 of 12 from 3. I mean, he just got what he wanted. I think 90% of his shots came in the second half. They were down double digits in that game. Caden Edwards led the Storm. But Chris Sinak also averaged a double-double, 15 and 12, I think, on the weekend. But, yeah, that AAO Flight game was awesome to watch. Aiden Chronister and Keon Epps, they both played awesome all weekend, and that was a huge win for them to close out the weekend in Memphis.
No doubt about it. Speaking of big performances, we've got to at least briefly mention TLBA. Unbelievable weekend. Something I've never seen before, probably will never see again. Eli Ellis hits 2 game winners. within a 4.5-hour time span. It was absolutely incredible. So got to mention them, give them a little bit of love. One of those games was live on Peacock. We've got 2 games live on Peacock this week. We'll get to those later, but you got to start with who, in my opinion, the player that had the best weekend in Memphis on the circuit, whether it's NXTPRO16, it's Kingston Flemings. He was special box office. He's leading the league in points. He's leading the league in rebounds. He's a 6'3" strong guard, Shanku, and he's top 5 in assists. It's flat out impressive from what we're seeing. And I put my stamp on it on Twitter. I think he's the best point guard in the country. Obviously, look, we're biased. We run the league. He plays in our league, sure. Go watch the kid and tell me I'm wrong, please.
Yeah, I mean, that's an absolutely fair take. I mean, he can go against anyone in the country. I mean, the way he opened up his Pro 16 season, 37, 15, and 6, I think, on Friday night.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
I mean, just absurd numbers. And he averaged 28, 12, and 6 on the weekend on 60% shooting from the field. Got to the line 13 times a game, and he's not foul baiting, which is the ridiculous part. He's getting to the rim at will, and defenses have no choice but to foul him. So he's getting to the line. He shot 43 or 49 from the free throw line this past weekend, which is just unreal, Matt.
Unreal, absolutely unreal. Keeping it going, we got to talk about BTI. They are, in my opinion, I mean, how can you say that they're not? At least at the top 2, they're the most talented, very least. There may be a team or two that has a deeper bench than what they do, but Nicholas Kamania, obviously led by him, and Xavier Staten, those two, I mean, 2 top 32 players in the country, one at 22, one at 32, and I still think they have more room to keep climbing. Those 2 are special guys.
For sure, yeah. Nick had an awesome weekend, 28 and 5, playing the point guard position for them at 6'8". I mean, he was just making some awesome reads, showing why he's a high-level talent with real NBA upside, in my opinion. And the way him and Xavier, I think they're still meshing. They're still building that chemistry. And once they do kind of fully clash in terms of their play styles, they're going to be super tough to beat.
Very tough. I think we saw in one of the games that they are starting to figure it out a little bit. Xavier Staten was 8 of 8 from the floor. They really got him the ball. BTI, the coaching staff there, the program, they've got to make sure Xavier gets the ball, because when he does, the guy makes shots. He's around the basket, obviously. Typically when he gets the ball, dunks, putbacks, you name it. The guy can do it. You'll see here coming up shortly, if you haven't already, then in the top plays, he is phenomenal. Had a big dunk over Eli Ellis. Eli had the last laugh, though, with the game winner. Kelvin Udi is another one. Kelvin is a talented player with Rhode Island Elite. He's really coming up the ranks, top 150 guy. I think he's got a chance after this past weekend, at least in several of the rankings, to be a top 100 player, if not further up the list. And it's most importantly, Shanku, because he was playing point guard. He was playing a different position than he's played when I've seen him any other time in school ball. And I think you put a guy like Kelvin, who's 6'4" and dynamic with the ball, that's his position. He's a point guard.
Yeah, Kelvin Odi was awesome. I mean, what he was doing all weekend, 25 points a game, 10 boards a game, 5 assists a game. I mean, he was dominant. He's so explosive off the bounce, plays above the rim, constantly in traffic. He's a top 100 guy easily, in my opinion, probably top 50, and he's going to pick up a bunch of high major offers as the summer goes on for sure.
Grand Park Premier, big bounce back weekend. They went 3-1 despite Ty Price being out. Ty had some struggles in that first week. We're hoping to see him bounce back in Wichita as he gets healthy. Had a rolled ankle there. But you look at what they were able to do. Obviously, it's impressive. Grand Park Premier going without one of their better players and able to pull off a very impressive record. And then last but not least, again, apologies, we're running out of time. We've got a lot to cover for Wichita, but we did want to mention Ja'Cory Robinson, Shanku, had a big weekend for MPJ Lee.
Yeah, Ja'Cory was awesome. MPJ was pretty short-handed, played with 6 guys all weekend, and Ja'Cory had a pretty heavy usage rate all weekend long, and he thrived in that heavy usage role. I mean, scoring from all 3 levels, playing some awesome off-ball defense as a ball hawk, 2 blocks a game, 2 steals a game. Just an awesome player, and he holds 1 D1 offer currently from Austin Peay, and I think that's going to grow as the summer goes on as well.
All right, we're going to let Shanku step away here for a second, and we're going to bring in Kyle Unruh shortly. As we look at the landscape for this weekend in Wichita, Kansas, we are very excited about it. It's a really big week for us here at NXTPRO, and a really big week for the Puma Pro 16 circuit as well as the next circuit. all coming from Wichita. So let's go ahead and bring Kyle Unruh in. Kyle, I think as you look at this week, and obviously for the parent watching this or the player watching this, recruitment has changed a lot in the last 5 years. One of the biggest misconceptions I think, though, that is out there is, they're not recruiting high school players at all. Now, I think what's different, the offers don't come as fast. The offers aren't as many. There's players on our circuit right now today that would have 40 or 30 or 20 or 10 offers from their respective levels. That just doesn't happen anymore. And then I think once you get past the Division I level, D2s, NAIs, JUCOs, D3s are even more stingy because even they can get a better player now than they used to be able to get. However, one thing that is notable and is a positive is when someone does offer someone a scholarship, it's a very meaningful deal.
Yeah, it is. That's a great point, Matt. They used to hand them out like candy, and then like they would offer 5 kids a shooting guard spot, and the first one that would take it would get it. And they don't do that like that anymore. They're very calculating. They're very intentional and purposeful with those offers, but they have great value because of the transfer portal. When you do get an offer, it's meaningful, like you said. And nowadays for high school kids, the focus tends to be more, how do you get in the funnel, the college basketball funnel? And you don't see a lot of kids that are staying 4 years or 5 years at the same school anymore. And so it does come down to, how do I get in the funnel, and then how do I navigate my way in the college experience? But there's no denying that high school kids are getting in the funnel because those transfers were freshmen at one point,
right?
And got in the funnel. So, and if that wasn't the case, we wouldn't have all these coaches that are pre-registered to come to a live period. So, still great value in having these live periods, and we're excited about ours for sure.
And May is a difference. April is where we've had the live periods the last couple of years. Quite frankly, for a number of years. This is the first May one that I can remember in a long time. It's different, but I think it is a really, 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 really positive change. So NCAA, if you're listening, keep it that way, because I think this is something that could work to where now the college coaches, most of their rosters, in talking to them, they are filled out to the point where they feel like they can come out on the road and they can recruit a high school player or evaluate a high school player, because they have, maybe only one roster spot open left, or maybe they've filled all their roster spots with the portal already.
Yeah, for sure. The 25s are the ones that are going to get first looks, if you will, because their roster's probably fairly well set going into next year, and so it's now time to start looking for the talent that is going to be available to them. And they're probably not even looking at specific positions right now, to be honest with you, because the way it all unfolds in the spring now is they just don't know, whether they're going to need wings or bigs or guards because of the transfer issues. And so I think it's a great opportunity for all kids to just come out and showcase who they are and play to their level. And if history repeats itself, and there's no reason to think that it won't, there's going to be a lot of offers that get extended to these 2025 kids this weekend, I think.
Well, last year, Lane Taylor changed his life in this building, Ty Robinson as well as many other players. Those are the two big stories, if you watch the documentary that we have on YouTube, that definitely echo that. I'm excited to see who is that next person, who is the next player that is going to, quite frankly, change their life this weekend.
Yeah, that's a great point, Matt. And we watched that firsthand, and there's no reason to think that's not going to happen this weekend as well. So I think we're all excited to see the kids come and perform, and who's ready for the bright lights and the big stage, and it will be that. I know that sounds a little pressurized, and
it is, though. It is.
Yeah,
that's the reality.
Yeah.
The reality is, if you play great 7 weeks of the AAU season, but the 3 lives, if you don't play good, none of the 7 matter. Like, I'm just being straight up and honest, because guys like Kyle, guys like myself, Sean Koo, everyone on our team, from our media team to our scouts, we can get all the stuff out there for you, whether it's a video or we can, the articles that are written about you, whether that's on nextprohoops.com or some other website. All of those things are great, but you have to play well when the college coaches are on the baseline. And again, I'm just calling a spade a spade. That's what it is. You've got to play well these 3 weeks, and we're hoping to see our kids do obviously their best here in Wichita. Speaking of that, the format. It is completely showcased, but we are eventually going to get to a Pro16 finals. Those standings are coming up here shortly. The last question I have for you, Kyle, is on this weekend. As you look at it, just advice that you have, the 17U, every single 17U team is in the main facility. Every single 17U team. There's a lot of circuits and tournaments around that, do this Saturday or the other. We prioritize 17U. If you're a 16U or a 15U player, it doesn't mean that you're not important. It means that, hey, your time is coming. The reality is college coaches, with the shift that we've had, they are focused solely on 25s right now for the most part, unless you're a really, really special 2026, which we've got a few of those. Aiden Cronister playing up. You've got Isaiah Ward playing up. So there's some that are obviously playing that older age. But Kyle, what is your advice to the player out there, to the parent out there? Give me two answers here. We'll start with the parent. As a parent, how can they best? You've gone through this with your kids. You've had kids play at all levels of college basketball. You've had professionals that have gone on to play this game and get paid overseas. What's your advice as a parent?
Yeah, I think as a parent, I think it's just be an encourager for your son. Believe it or not, you're being watched as well by these college coaches. They'll find out who you are and they'll identify who you are. And, they're not looking for kids that bring baggage that they're going to have to deal with. Not to say the parents are baggage.
They can be sometimes.
But they can.
If you're yelling and
that's right,
throwing a fit and getting thrown out of a game or whatever, they see that.
You're right. And so the best thing is to just really support your son. And I think the best way to support them, the message to them is be a great teammate. The things that most parents or most bystanders or just civilians look at is they look at those high level statistics, shooting, rebounding, things like that. But a lot of these coaches have done their advanced work and they know what their skill set is. Now they're coming to watch their character. They're coming to see how they handle coaching. They're coming to see, do they look people in the eye? They're coming to see what kind of a teammate they are. And so moms and dads, if you get wind of this, whether it's before this live period or preparing for the July live period, man, our encouragement to you would be really, really positive and optimistic and encouraging to your son to just be a great teammate. Keep doing what they do. Do all the things that they've prepared themselves for from a skills standpoint, athletic standpoint, but be a great teammate. The stories are endless that I've heard coaches talk about. I watched him get water for his teammates on a timeout, and that sold it for me. Those kind of stories really carry a lot of weight with these coaches, and those are the intangible things that they're looking for.
And from a player standpoint?
Be who you are. So many kids, we watch it all the time. They'll come out and they'll take shots that they never practice, or they'll try and make moves that they'd have never put the reps into. You know what you're really good at. Come out and be excellent in your role. Master, show what you've mastered. Don't try and become all of a sudden at a live period somebody that you're not. You haven't put the work in to become that player, because that will backfire big time every single time. Be great at what you've repped and become really good at.
Well, before we get Shanku back in here, let's roll the standings, John. We've got some new updates, and I know everybody's very intrigued. Top 16 is what you'll see here. This is the 11U. Just give you some notables as we go through them. Obviously, JBL Elite, still number one. They're holding it down in the 11U standings. Team Signs at 6, Made Prospects at 15. Team B Will at 16. A lot of teams fighting for positioning there. Remember, this fight continues on for a while as 11U, 12U, 13U, and 14U. They don't wrap up until the end of the year in Nebraska. So looking at 12U, you got Team Museum at the top, JBL Elite at number 2. Man, pretty good. They're number 2. 3 is Run as 1. Some other notables, Central Flight at 13. And Porter Basketball Academy has, as of now, snagged that 16th spot in the top 16. That's your 12U. Moving forward to the 13U standings, all of these on nextprohoops.com. You can go see the full list beyond the 16 if you would like, as well as the girls standings will be updated there as well. For 13U, you've got Run as One Teal. They are in the top spot. Team Grind, they've had a really good run. They're at number 2, a very real candidate to win the 13U. Skipping around here to a few other notables, University of Hoops is at 11, New Day Elite at 15, and True 2 Form Hoops fills out the top 16. Middle school standings, man, as you look at it, I think we're going to have at the top, there's some really, really talented teams, but some of these teams that maybe aren't at the number 1 or number 2 or number 3 spot, I think you can see some challenging, because the reality is when you get into a bracket play, anything can happen. Coming up here with the next 14U standings, J Uno Elite out of Texas is in the top spot. Road to Greatness Gold in second, Peoria Pride Athletics in third, holding it down. Still in the top 16 at 8 is Delaware Certified Hoops. They've got some great jerseys, by the way. CBA North Elite at 13, Louisville Cardinals Elite at 16. Again, if you want a further deeper dive into any of these standings, they're all on nextprohoops.com. Heading into 15U, these really matter these next 2 weeks, because the reality is this is all what it's all about. They're playing these next 2 weeks to get into the PRO16 finals in Phoenix for 15U and 16U and 17U, all the high school ages. Team Supreme is currently right there at 16. At 15 is Clarksville Crossover. Rice Basketball Academy is at 13. Team 94 squeezed in between there. Houston Apex is at 12. Exposure Sports at 11. Team GME at 10. Those 10 through 16 are teams that really have to perform well in their next few events, and they need some teams that are just outside the bubble to not perform well, because the reality is if you're through 10 through 16, nothing's safe. Not to say that the others are safe either, but that's your 15U standings in the next section. Looking at the 16U, you've got Pack Basketball at the top. They have secured their spot. Pack Basketball, you're headed to Phoenix, Arizona. Congratulations. They were able to do that with an undefeated record for the large majority of the season here. NTX Raptors is at number 2. BTI Pressure Elite is at 3. On the back end, BYC Elite Red is holding on just very tightly there at 16. Team Utah Black at 14. Select Basketball, Wadsworth at 4, following them at 14 there, and then Spokane Elite Basketball. That is your last 4 in there. Again, it's going to go down to the wire. The 16U, super, super competitive, but by far the most competitive has been the 17U next. And if you look at the top 16, Team Utah has a very, 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 very tough schedule this weekend in Wichita. We'll get to that shortly. Family, they're right there at number 2. They picked up a big, big win last week in Memphis. They are rolling. Bama Celtics is on the opposite end of that. They're at 16, along with Urban DFW Elite and Team Spates at 14, OTP at 13. OTP, a little bit of a tough weekend last weekend, but they did pick up 1 PRO16 win in the process of the weekend, picked up a couple losses. As you look at those teams, those are the teams that are in position now. However, again, nextprohoops.com, go look at the full list. The top 16 make it. There's a lot of people vying for those spots. And then remember, the top 150, we're going to start talking about that a lot as we get into July, because that is who makes the next finals. And then you'll have the NIT, the next invitational tournament. Everyone is headed to Omaha and Lincoln for the end of the year at all ages, as well as the middle school championships. So, Shanku, we've got a lot going on. And obviously, we're going quickly, and we have to go quickly because we've got a lot to talk about in Wichita. So let's start talking about Wichita and break down some of these matchups. We do have 2 games on Peacock. They will be broadcast Saturday evening, starting with Team Museum taking on SA Future. Obviously, you got to start with Eric Ryby on his side. Eric is a really talented big man. And then obviously Kingston Fleming is not a big man, the opposite, but he's rebounding like a big man. He's 6'3" guard, one of the most talented players, not just on our circuit, but in the entire country. That's going to be an exciting matchup to see those 2 teams face off on Peacock.
Yeah, Eric Iba is a 7-footer. He was in Indy. He made his debut in Indy. He couldn't make it last weekend in Memphis, but I'm super excited to watch him live this weekend. 7-footer, got all the skill and mobility in the world, and He's a player that also holds a few high major offers, but I think that's going to pick up as the summer progresses.
No doubt. Top 50 player in the country, number 48 is where Eric's at. Kingston Flemings is a top 25 player. I think both those rankings will climb. They're very, very talented. Kingston, we've talked a lot about him already, but the reality is he is box office, but his team has to pick it up a little bit. They've got to be able to win a few of these games, and they have the toughest schedule in the entire deal. They're in the toughest pool, I should say. So they've got a lot of tough games, and they're going to have to really bring it this week. Kingston, again, he's going to need to perform great again. I have no doubt that he will, but he needs some guys around him to hit some shots. One of those pieces coming up, though, is Isaiah Ward. He's going to be playing on the 17U this weekend. He's played 16U last weekend, and I think this is going to be a big addition for their 17U roster, Shanku, with a player that can do a lot of things, including get some open looks and make some shots, but also is a very talented passer.
Yeah, Isaiah Ward is a 6'6" guard. I mean, incredible positional size. He's playing at 16U, but I have no doubt that he will compete and he will thrive in the 17U division. One of the best passers I've seen this spring at 6'6", just makes some unbelievable passes from standstill, flash some live dribble reads as well, but can also create his own shot from multiple levels, and he's going to be a big addition to that SA Future 17 squad.
I would say in the Peacock game, Team Museum is a slight favorite, but I think that game is going to be a very, very good game. The other Peacock game, which will follow that one, is Marcus Smart's program, YGC 36. He was in the building last weekend in Memphis in case you missed it. BTI United is their opponent. These are the most two talented teams when you put them on paper. Again, we're talking paper. There's some teams that have outperformed wherever they're ranked as far as their prospects-wise. Select Basketball is of note on that. TLBA is of note on that. There's many other talented teams as well. But Shanku, I think you have to really, as you look at this game, it is very exciting. Caden Edwards, a top 80 player. Chris Sanak, number 15 in the country. Xavier Staten, number 22 in the country. Nikos Kamania, number 32 in the country. It's 2-on-2 with those. And you've got big guys as well. They're going to match up with Xavier Staten, a true center. Chris Sanak, not necessarily a true center, but a guy that can be that. He's 6'10", 6'11", very versatile forward. That game I'm very excited for it.
Yeah, two of the best dynamic duos in the country, really. Two of the best on our circuit for sure. But Caden and Chris, they've had some rough showings as a team, but I think they're going to bounce back, and there's going to be I think they like to play against their competition. So Nick and Xavier are the team to do it against, and that's going to be a fun one to watch, Matt.
It's going to be a really fun one. And again, they went 2-2 last week in YGC, that is, and BTI went 3-1. So everybody has been a little competitive when it comes to that. Speaking of competitiveness, Select Basketball, wow, what can you say? They're 8-0. They are rolling. They have a really interesting game against Rhode Island Elite. You've got Kelvin, a very talented guard that we spoke on earlier in the show, 6'3", 6'4" point guard that is climbing quickly. They've got many other players on that roster as well, including a couple big men, another guard in Slopes that is a really talented player. Rhode Island Elite is going to be definitely a club to watch. And against Select Basketball, where, yes, you can point out Nash Humphreys, you can point out Ray Johnson, they truly are a team, Shanku. I mean, they're a team that operates that way.
Yeah, they might be undersized, but they're so skilled. They all have high field, they're well-connected. And Rhode Island Elite definitely has the size advantage in that one, but Select is so well coached. I like them in that one, just as my prediction for that one.
All right, Rhode Island Elite. There you go. Shanku's not picking you. The motivation is there. All right, moving forward, Southern Ties TLBA. This one's going to be really intriguing. Cameron Paul, Devon Scott, breakout performer in Memphis. It's going to be exciting to see how this matchup goes. Eli Ellis is, of course, the story on the other side with TLBA. They lost a game last week, but he did not play in that contest after hitting 2-game winners the day before. He was out. He should be back by all accounts. And in looking at this game, I really think Southern Ties, TLBA, this is a complete toss-up, and it's going to come down to who can hit the most shots.
Yeah, I think they're both 7-1 on the season PRO16 matchups this year. And, yeah, like you said, I think it's going to be a flamethrower battle. Both high-scoring teams, they like to get out and run in transition. Really well matched up teams, so it's going to be a fun one for sure.
BTI takes on Team Museum. We've got to talk about that one. But, again, we've already mentioned both these teams. But you've got Big Eric against Big Xavier. Two true centers and a clash of styles, an absolute clash. One is a rim runner, super athletic, can get up and block shots with the best of them. Eric is more, that's Xavier on the first one there. Eric is more on the side of super skilled, can shoot the ball, can do a lot of other things. It's going to be exciting to see these two match up.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, Matt, it's a completely opposite play styles between the two 7-footers. Xavier, one of the best defensive anchors in the country, and then Eric is obviously one of the best and most skilled offensive talented 7-footers in the country. So that's going to be fun to watch as they battle in the post.
Another intriguing game with BTI that they have that will be more intriguing, I would say, for Nicholas Kamania, because he's probably going to guard Kingston Flemings, which I am really looking forward to it. Nick, if you're watching this, you've got to guard him, man. You've got to guard him. He's a talented defender, and I love the fact that Nick, he seeks out the best player in the other team. He really does. And Shanku, we won't call it one-on-one because we know it won't be, but it will be fun to see those two compete against each other.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest step in Nick's game that he's taken from last year is his defense. His overall lateral mobility, anticipation at the point of attack has really improved, and he's showing he can guard those lead guards out on the perimeter and do well against them.
YGC's got an interesting one against TLBA. Again, two teams we've talked already a lot about Chris Sanak and Caden Edwards and the star power against Eli Ellis and Isaac Ellis and their crew. That's going to be a really intriguing game to watch as well. SA Future also plays TLBA. If you're starting to notice a trend, again, that top pool, it's loaded, and it's loaded with those top players. All of our top 100 players in the country are in the mix against each other. So a very, very exciting matchup. Speaking of top 100 players, Joe Sterling for CPSA in a matchup of 2026 players at the 17U level, though. Both of them playing 17s. You've got Joe Sterling for CPSA, and you got Aiden Cronister on the other side for AO Flight. That's going to be a fun one.
Yeah. CPSA actually has two 2026s. Joe Sterling, like you said, is one of the best scorers in the country. And then Josh Irving is also a super intriguing long-term prospect to me, 6'10", big, who can kind of the same play style as Xavier, just rim running, rim protection. But that's a dynamic duo that could be building and hopefully will be special one day.
One of one, LaMelo Ball, led by Javante Ware. Ware is a talented big fella, and they're going to take on Coos Elite in one of the more intriguing games of the weekend. You've got Tyrus Rather-Mays, who's on their side, an intriguing week. Ian, an talented guard for Coos. Coos didn't have the record I think any of us expected, 1-3 last week. That being said, I expect a big bounce back week, and this is going to be one where I think we see an absolute battle.
Yeah, Tyrus Rather-Mays and Ian Inman, both, they're definitely super talented. There's no doubt about that. But I think their role players will need to step a little bit if they want to take home some of these wins against high-level teams.
Southern Ties takes on Norcross Heat next team. There's several next matchups against Pro16, and I think as you look at this, this is one. Norcross had a really tough weekend in Memphis. This is why you play on our circuit. You get this opportunity. They've earned this opportunity through their play over the first several weeks. It's an uphill battle that they're going to have, but I'm very excited for this new Norcross squad to be able to play in front of college coaches and show what they can do against a talented Southern Ties squad.
Yeah, Norcross definitely had a tough schedule in Memphis, and they've got another tough schedule this weekend. But a guy like Alex Young, he's a 6'5", guard wing type of guy, just a low-usage, high-impact player. College coaches are going to love him at the D1 level. Can do a little bit of everything, crashes offensive glass, puts the ball on the floor, seeks out contact at the rim, and then he has one of the best motors you'll find on the Pro16.
All right. Have you seen Sean Koo, the meme, where Spider-Man is pointing at Spider-Man?
Yes.
That's what this next game is. Select Basketball against Rogue.
Yeah.
It's Rogue on the next side. Select Basketball, the only undefeated team coming into the weekend on the Pro16. And they're going head-to-head. And I think, you've got Ernie Barber, one of the best next coaches. He's obviously got some talented players on his roster. You've got Select Basketball with one of the best Pro16 coaches in Clint. This is going to be a really, really fun matchup just to see, who overpowers the other, and a very similar play style, very similar players, to be quite honest.
Yeah, they both lack some athleticism, but what they lack in athleticism, they make up in skill and just super well-rounded coaching on both ends of the floor. They both really buy in on the defensive end despite the lack of athleticism. And, yeah, I think it's going to come down to coaching, and it'll be a fun one to watch for sure.
Another intriguing one with the next team in action against the Pro16 17U squad is Team Utah taking on MPJ Elite. MPJ Elite, They've had a lot of injuries. They've got some roster influx happening right now. Team Utah, they've been a really, 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 really good next team at that 17U level. And I think this is their opportunity to show they've arrived, Shanku.
Yeah, Team Utah Black is 8-0, currently ranked number 1 on the 17U standings. They've got 2 guys, Division I guys in my opinion, JJ Apethang and Albert Philippe. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name, but they're 2 super athletic, lengthy wings. JJ Apethang is more of a guard, but they're super talented, and their recruitment is going to see a big bump this weekend.
No doubt. All right, we've got a few more things before we get out of here for this week. One of those is the Pro 16 standings. So let's start at 15U for the Pro 16 standings. You've got to start with Coos Elite, who is off to a stellar start. They are in the top spot. Nebraska Supreme, they won 15U last year. They're in second. Select Basketball at 3. One Family at 4. SA Future at 5. Pointing out a few other notables outside the top 5. Louisiana Elite enters at 9 after a really good weekend. Grand Park Premier at 10. Rhode Island Elite at 14. The Hill Elite at 15. And West Virginia Gold at 16. Moving up to 16U in the Pro 16 standings, it's the Las Vegas Knicks, who they are really, really, really talented. We don't look, we're scrunched for time here. We don't have all the time in the world. So we're not going to be able to get into 16U like I would like to. But man, college coaches, that's a squad you want to watch as the Las Vegas Knicks 16U squad. Lamar Bigby, he's got a great, great group. And there's a reason they're the top spot. Number 2 is SA Future. I cannot wait till those two go head-to-head at some point, hopefully maybe for a championship down the line. Nebraska Supreme, another notable, they're at 12. Team Scoot at 14. Rhode Island Elite rounds it out at 16. Shanku, a lot of battling for those spots at that 16U Pro 16, and obviously there's some teams that are on the outside looking in to get into the Pro 16 finals. The top 14 get in, and then everyone else has to play for a play-in spot in Arizona to make the bracket for 17U. Speaking of 17U, here's your standings. This is just the top 16. So again, remember, just the top 16. There's some teams missing. SA Future, really notable. They're missing. You are outside the top 16, and so is MPJ Elite, so is Team Museum. They are in trouble just the same, because if it started today, they would be in the play-in game. There's going to be play-in games in Phoenix that lead into Indianapolis, and that's the way it goes. Select Basketball is at the top. They're undefeated. Southern Ties and TLBA both head-to-head this weekend. They're 7-1. You could really put one at 2A, one at 2B right now. We're going to find out where exactly they'll end up after this weekend. BTI United at 4. Rhode Island Elite at 5. YGC did not expect them to be at 6, but after a 2-2 weekend, that's where they are. Both LaMelo teams, one of one Elite and one of one LaMelo Ball, in the top 8. They've got tough schedules this week. I've really been impressed with what they've been able to do with Jermaine and his crew. As you look at LJ Hill, had a really big weekend for them last weekend. AO Flight is at 9. They were struggling. They were really, really struggling, but they picked up that win over YGC. And Shanku, that late win propelled them all the way from they would have probably been close to outside the 16 up into the 9th spot with a really big win over YGC. Moving forward, you've got at 12, Grand Park Premier, Louisiana Elite at 13, and rounding out, we've talked about Coos Elite at 14, and those other 2 who would be on the outside looking in if they drop today. All right, before we wrap, Shanku, obviously we know some college coaches are tuning in. A lot going on this week, a little bit shorter of a show just with the time crunch and everything that we have going on in Wichita. We're very excited to have you all, whether you're coming in as a fan, a parent, a player, or a college coach. We're very appreciative and very excited to show you what exactly the Puma Pro 16 and next circuit is all about. But without further ado, let's wrap with this. The next players to watch. There's some next players that obviously will be here this weekend in Wichita that are really, really talented. We're not going to get to all of them, but give me a few that you're going to be on the lookout for, Shanku.
Yeah, Matt. Like I mentioned, JJ Apethang and Albert Philippe, Tunga Simpe is what my guess would be for his last name, but they're on Team Utah Black, both Division I guards. Albert Philippe is a wing, but they're both D1 guards, super athletic, lengthy, physical, like to attack the rim. They're a dynamic duo to watch for Team Utah Black, who's currently ranked number 1. For Colorado Collective Murphy, Cole Scherer, who is the Gatorade Player of the Year out of Colorado. 6'2" guard, super fundamentally sound, super skilled, high feel, can score from multiple levels. And then they've got a really intriguing prospect in Kassan Westfall, who is a 7-foot big man, and he shoots the ball at a really high clip from beyond the arc. Great touch, moves well, some intriguing rim protecting flashes as well, but that's another duo for sure.
I expect that collective group, they're going to pick up some offers. If they play anything like what they've played like for most of the season, they're going to pick up some offers this week. So excited to see what they do for sure. Give me a few others.
Yeah. Ethan Sage for Team Rogue. Like we mentioned, they're coached by Ernie Barber. Super well-coached team, and Ethan Sage fits on that team perfectly. A 6'7" wing with guard skills. And what's really impressed me most about Sage is his motor. He's averaging a double-double in rebounds this season, just dominating the glass on both ends of the floor, using as athleticism and physicality to grab rebounds in traffic and create second chance opportunities, which has been super valuable for his team.
No doubt. And again, there's many more players, both on the next side and on the PRO16 side, that we are not going to get to talk about today. There's many other matchups that are really good. So if we left you out, apologies. There is only so much time in the show. Big thanks to Shanku, Kyle for joining the show, as well as John for running the 1s and 2s. That's going to do it for this week. Next week, much longer show, we promise, and we'll break it all down, what all happens. We're looking forward to seeing you this weekend in Wichita. Thanks for tuning in to the NXTPRO Show.